Hi everyone, it's Manda here, and I'm so excited today on Yachting International Radio. I'm here, one of my dear friends and heroes, and one of the most extraordinary women, Annie Lush. Annie's been a sailor, she's done Olympics, she's one of the Volvo girls, and a whole bunch of other stuff, lots of extreme sailing. But Annie, how about you introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks, Amanda. Thanks very much for having me on.
Thanks for getting up so early.
Yeah, it's quite early and I'm trying not to wake up a child, so if I'm speaking slightly quietly, that's why.
Me too.
Um, yeah, I've been, sailing most of my life, been very lucky to have been competing professionally since university, really. So I spent 10 years with the British sailing team, and since then really focused on what was the Volvo Ocean Race, and also match racing, which is probably really my love and my hobby.
Oh, what makes match racing so much fun?
Well, I think just the intensity of the racing
Yeah.
is always good, and also the format, because you have to swap into all different kinds of boats. So I think when we were young, it was really a way that we learned very, very quickly, especially as a team of girls. And we'd race against the women, but we'd also race on the open tour. And I think that helps us to progress very quickly, racing 30, 40-foot boats shorthanded and kind of having to learn all of the roles on board, really. And yeah, I mean, I'm also quite competitive, so I love a good fight, and match racing is 12 minutes races, pretty intense.
Oh, that sounds so much fun. Yeah, I've only got to see that one on TV. And what sort of training goes into that? Because I guess when it was on, you were all flying from all over the world, or were you based at the same place and practicing together? How does that work?
Well, with the match racing, that was I was actually sailing with an international team, or mostly with Americans at the beginning, but then it became an Olympic class for 2012. So then that was a bit simpler. And in fact, I was with an Olympic team. We were all from the same town in Poole in Dorset. So we were located very close to each other, which was very handy.
Oh, what fun. That's amazing. And so then you've also done the Volvo. You've done two Volvos now, is that correct?
Well, I guess really one and a half, because unfortunately I had to get off halfway through one of them.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about that? What were the two campaigns and why did you only do half of one?
Yeah. So my first ocean race was with Team SCA, which was an all-female team for 2014-15. And I mean, really, I'm very fortunate to be part of that experience. While I was campaigning for 2012, we were actually match racing in Brazil, and we watched a lot of the fleet come into, I think it's still the longest leg that's been in the ocean race, where they'd sailed from China to Brazil. And I just remember watching all the boats come in and seeing all the guys on the dock, and yeah, pretty much deciding in that moment that I needed to do that race. It looked incredible. Until that point, kind of the America's Cup had really always been my goal. And, I started Olympic sailing because I thought that was a route to the Cup. I think the Cup is still incredible, but seeing how the teams were kind of interacting in the Volvo Ocean Race, and just the camaraderie between the teams as well as the competition, it just looked like kind of the ultimate test, really, of teams and of yourself. And yeah, so I remember seeing them all coming and thinking, okay, I want to do this. But at the time, there hadn't been any women in the race since the fleet had changed, the Volvo 70s, really since it had been the Whitbread. And it didn't look like there was a particularly easy pathway. And I guess sometimes timing is just good. And as I was finishing the Olympics in 2012 or just afterwards, I heard that SCA, the Swedish company, were looking for an all-female team because most of their consumers are female, and that was what they wanted to host. And pretty quickly went to Sweden and started talking to them. And it was a very big campaign. We were well funded by SCA and really well supported, but we had a very big search together, the team together, and it was a very long trials process based in Lanzarote for like a year and a half. But yeah, it was an incredible process to be part of, and eventually doing the race with the girls.
Oh, that must be amazing, because I guess after a year and a half, if you didn't know them already, you'd all become so close and a very intuitive team.
Yeah, we used to call our training base in Lanzarote the moon because it felt a little bit like the coaches had put us out. I mean, obviously Lanzarote is a very good place to train for the ocean race from. You're straight out into the Atlantic, but it's a small island anyway in the middle of nowhere, and then we were living in a particularly small town on it with about 2 bars in it that the coaches were always in. So we felt like this was part of some kind of scheme so that we, never went out and had too much fun. So yeah, we were living together in very close quarters for a year and a half, and our own entertainment was really sort of going out once every couple of weeks with each other. So we got to know each other very well. But I think actually in the end, that was really important for the race, because as a team, we managed to stay together. We had different substitutions, but we kept the original team together for the whole race. And I think we got to know each other very well and know how to support each other very well in the race. In hindsight, well done coaches, it was a good idea.
That's so awesome. And what was your favorite leg on that one when you did the whole one around the world with the girls?
Oh, I have to say the leg we won, of course, which was from Portugal into Lorient. But yeah, I mean, that was an incredible leg because I think we felt a lot of pressure the whole way around the world. I know I certainly did, in terms of not just in terms of performing for ourselves, but kind of proving that there should be women in the race and that we could sail these kind of boats, which I think were all questions. There was a lot of question put on our ability physically to handle this kind of boat. So it was very important that we did perform. I think quite early on we started performing in the import races, which was great because, obviously as a short court racer anyway, I didn't see why we wouldn't be able to perform on short courses. And I mean, the one thing is the boats are so one designed that although we had a different rule in terms of numbers to make up the weight because we were all girls, we couldn't add like another pedestal or anything. So actually in terms of power that we were putting in, that didn't change, so we didn't sort of get given any advantage there by having extras. But it turned out we could handle the boat fine on a short course. But then after sort of 6 legs, I remember after the Southern Ocean and then going up to Newport, it just really felt like, we've learned a lot now. Now this is the time we need to perform, and it just kind of wasn't coming. We weren't getting on the podium. And then, finally to win that leg, especially because it was a leg where we saw really light winds, but we also saw hideous, upwind, really windy in the Bay of Biscay, classic Bay of Biscay. So to kind of prove ourselves across a range of conditions was really important. And it was mostly just such a good moment for our shore crew as well, because we had so many people working with us the whole race, as I'm sure the Vendee sailors will say, and as all sort of offshore racers say, although you only ever see those sailors that are on the boat, there's always a much bigger team behind you preparing the boat and preparing you and getting the team ready. And we had just the most supportive shore crew, and finally we could get to the dock and kind of hug them and be like, yeah, we did it for you. Because they were always, believing in us, and just kind of always coming back into the dock being like a little bit frustrated. And finally being able to come in and celebrate was amazing.
Oh, I've got goosebumps. That sounds so cool. And then you went on to do the next half race, as you say. So how did that become half a race?
Yeah, then for the next race, 2017, 2018, I was with Team Brunel, with Bauer Backing and his team. And, I was really excited then. Well, there'd been a rule change, which kind of opened up the fleet to taking mixed crews. And the reason that is so exciting is, sorry guys, not because I necessarily want to sail with guys, but because it means you get to sail with, experience. And that was the problem with Team SCA. We were all women, and that, that was fine. But the thing is, none of us had done the ocean race, or some people done the whipwreck a long time ago, but we really didn't have that experience. And so in the next race, I get to sail with, I think, the most experienced, around the world ocean race skipper there is, Bauer Backing. So, and with KP, our navigator as well. So it was very exciting to get to learn from that experience. Unfortunately, my experience was cut a little bit short when I got hit by a wave in Southern Ocean from Cape Town to Melbourne, and about halfway through the leg, and and ended up, well, as I found out afterwards, breaking my back and my foot. So yeah, didn't arrive in Australia in the best shape.
But you didn't actually even know you'd broken your foot, did you? Wasn't there a rumour
Well, I mean, of course, on board.
Your tail down?
Yeah, of course, on board, none of us are actually doctors. So, I mean, I knew when I got washed to the back of the boat and I felt kind of the guard wires cut into my back that something was bad. We're in the middle of about to jibe actually for the ice skates, so very far south. But yeah, after a few days below, you know, then you start telling yourself, oh, maybe I'm all right. And I think it was a really hard leg. We were driving on the ice skates. I could see the rest of the crew getting really, really tired, and I was just kind of desperate to get back on deck and help them out. So I did go back on deck, which, you know, in hindsight, it's pretty stupid. And it was only when we arrived in Melbourne, which was, of course, Christmas Day, and I went to hospital to get checked out. And yeah, then they said I'd actually broken the L1 and a few bones in my foot as well. So yeah, it was a disappointing end.
And so that was it for you. The race was over with a broken back. Obviously, you can't really rehabilitate before the next race. So what happened? That was it. You just had to leave?
Yeah, I tried to come back for China and then for Auckland, but you know, it took a while, especially my foot. Actually, it's very small bones to get them to recover. So, I mean, I sort of thought I'd be okay for China, and I wasn't. And then, of course, you know, we're getting well into the race now, and the team needs to just kind of get on and get on as a team. So the thing with Team Brunel is we hadn't had that long before the race together. We're actually a very short campaign. So it was important that at some point the team could really just bond and get on. And in fact, you know, by the end of the race, the team were right up there in terms of being competitive, which we had some fantastic sailors on board. We just didn't have very long to get it all together, really.
Yeah.
So I was quite sad not to be on board, but I was actually still working with the race, and I was commentating the finish when, in the end, Team Brunel, Mapfre and Dongfeng were all able to win the ocean race on the last leg. So that was pretty exciting. I could hardly watch it and commentate without shrieking too much as they were coming in.
Oh, I can feel those emotions. I have to sneak in one of my own questions because, as you know, I'm very passionate about marine medicine and extreme medicine, and you are such a perfect subject for that. So when you were in, when you were in the Southern Ocean and you'd broken your back, you'd had medical training from a great medical provider, I believe. But did you feel supported? Like, to just be really honest when you answer this, did you feel, given the circumstances and the time and the training and the kits and the 24/7, what's it like being on the receiving end of that?
Well, in the actual moment that it happened, we'd been training with MSOS before the race, and we'd actually done some sort of dummy runs with the half boat model that they have of a Volvo 65, and Spike, who was leading some of the training, had made us sort of, you know, practice carrying people and various things just to see what it was actually like on board. And I was training with Kyle and Carlo, two of our younger crew on board, and we were all training to be the kind of the medics, because you have to have at least two people who've got sort of extra medical training. And I think we had ended up actually doing the exact same scenario. So I'd been the patient and they'd had to get me below deck, imagining I had some kind of broken back. So they actually ended up being the guys that carried me off the deck and below and turning me around and putting me in my bunk. So, you know, it's only afterwards you realise, oh my God, yeah, well, that kind of, when we were slightly role playing and maybe we just thought this was a bit of a joke, it was actually quite important, because it's very hard to get someone off the deck and get them below. And you realise when you're in the middle of the Southern Ocean, you've got water coming over you like that, you know, the whole thing of getting a stretcher out and stuff, that's just not really a possibility. Just got to get the person off the deck. So, you know, them being able to get me below, keeping me flat was important. But then after that, of course, you've got to try and work out what's wrong. And I think for me, the most important thing over those days, because mentally as well as physically, was just having this constant email conversation really with the MSOS doctors on the shore, and just kind of being able to update on my symptoms and check in, because of course you don't really know what you've done. No one can diagnose you properly from afar, and you don't really need to be diagnosed. You just need to know that, you know, there's nothing else going wrong. Obviously you might have pain, but that you're not bleeding internally or something that could be a lot more serious, because I was in the middle of the Southern Ocean and the closest place to us was Melbourne. So, you know,
Which was
there
how
was
many
no way I was
miles
going to
away?
well, I don't, I'm not sure at that point, but I think that I remember Katie coming past my bunk and saying, you know, you better get better because we're not even halfway through this leg yet, which meant we weren't even halfway from Cape Town to Melbourne. So we had like another good 10 days of sailing left, you know, and I don't think we saw less than 30, 35 knots for most of that leg. So it was pretty horrendous seaway. So it wasn't the most comfortable. So yeah, the important thing was just to kind of manage it. And that to me was just really good, being able to have someone I could email and just say, okay, you know, and he was giving me little tasks and tests to do, which kind of kept me slightly occupied, because it's pretty hard not to go a bit mad. It's very hard just to lie there and watch your team working so hard around you. And yeah, I got very confused really as to whether or not I should be helping them or trying to get better.
Yeah, and the noise, I just imagine the noise in those things. It's no super yacht. You're not down in the deep,
It's,
dark, silent cabin of luxury, are you?
trying to get out the bunk to go to the toilet when you've got a broken back is pretty interesting. Luckily, yeah, Abby was helping me a lot, and was a fantastic teammate, really helped me through that. And our poor onboard reporter, I think he had a few more jobs than he'd planned when he stepped on the boat as a journalist.
Awesome. So let's just have a talk about the Vendee. How have you been following that?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's probably following the Vendee. I mean, it's so good to see a sports event actually happening at the moment when there's been so few. But yeah, of course, I'm also following Sam Davies, who was my skipper with Team SCA. And I mean, yeah, Sam, if you're watching this afterwards, then yeah, my money is on you for a top 3 finish. Okay, so no pressure.
And
But no, I mean, I think she
third at
will
the
do
moment,
well.
right?
And yeah, I'm really excited for her. She's got a really good campaign, but it's also exciting to see that there's 6 girls in the race, which is the first time ever. And yeah, they're all, I know a few of them, and yeah, it's really exciting that they all managed to get campaigns together for this race.
Oh, so good. And so Sam's coming third right now, isn't she?
I haven't checked this morning, to be honest, since we've
Yeah,
woken up. So
I think
I
I
don't know.
haven't either, but I think she was last night. And she's doesn't have like the brand new boat either, does she? It's not the.
No, she doesn't have a brand new boat, but I mean, she has been training a lot, and obviously she is with foils. I mean, I'm not sure. I think perhaps being in a proven boat would be a good thing when you're going around the world by yourself. But I mean, at the moment, you know, even the non-foilers are doing well as well. So I think well, it's a long way to go yet. We don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, I think I've never done any single-handed racing, and I never intend to. But yeah, I imagine the Vendee is definitely a long game, so we need to see what happens.
Yeah, so sit back and wait. It's going to be really exciting. So yeah, thank you so much, Annie. I'm going to let you go and get some coffee and breakfast and see your daughter, because it's first thing and I can hear the babies waking here. It's been awesome to have you on the show. Let's do it again sometime. You're so
Thanks
amazing.
very much,
You know how I
Amanda.
feel about you and what you've done, and I'm super excited to see what you do in the future as well.
Thank you. Watch this space.
Watch this space. Thanks very much, everyone. You're watching Yachting International Radio with Manda J and the amazing Annie Lush. Mwah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.